As an individual, my involvement with the LCB has been a nightmare that has gone on for almost 5 years now. I started in the industry as a very private medical cannabis patient and provider. As more and more patients requested my services as a provider, I expanded my collective to meet their needs. Even though I knew I was following the law and providing a valuable service, I was afraid to open up a licensed dispensary to operate from. I changed the name of my collective 4 times to avoid the scrutiny of law enforcement and government regulators, which came with publicity. For a black man in the cannabis industry at that time, publicity was nearly a death sentence. In order to pursue our chosen profession, black entrepreneurs who were part of the Washington's cannabis community before recreational paths were forced to risk taking on unsuitable partners to overcome the excessive barriers to entry put in place by the LCB. Meanwhile, white-owned cannabis operations have been licensed and empowered to generate millions of dollars at the expense of the black community for going on 5 years. The absence of black-owned cannabis businesses in Washington has become so shamefully embarrassing that the state is now finally being pressured into doing something about the problem. The current situation could have been avoided if the LCB had fulfilled its responsibility to implement a fair and equitable system which represented all members of our community. Instead, we're left with an LCB agency that its own officers publicly describe as a toxic environment, and blacks are being exiled from an industry which we helped to build.
Thank you for your comments. We're taking several steps that I think are relevant and important to the comments that you've made, and I'm going to ask someone here to provide some clarification after the meeting, so I'll be sure that that happens. Thank you.
My name is Brian Cobre, and I was one of the original, in fact, I was the first African American to open up a medical marijuana collective, and because I did get attention by the media because I was the first African American, I was targeted by the federal government, well, in particular Jenny Durkin, and because she was the head of the federal government at that time as far as leading prosecuting attorney. And I had all the licenses. Actually, I drove up here to get my licenses from the Secretary of State office. And so I followed all the rules, did everything that we were supposed to. But because I was African American, I was targeted and put out of business. They threatened to kill me, literally. They threatened to put me in prison for 5 years for having the same business that they were allowing. What was it at that time? About 150 other medical marijuana collectives going on at that time. And so basically what my thing is that I want to come up here and let you guys see the damage that was done to the African American community, because basically we were done wrong in this industry. I can't even tell you how many of us have been to prison over marijuana, and it's shameful that Washington State just hasn't opened up the industry to us like that. And so, again, I think I'm owed something. I literally think I'm owed something for what I went through, because we were planning on doing the 502s and all that kind of stuff. The state came down and asked me what our plans were after we told them our plans, because we were a black organization, African American organization, and they didn't like it. And so they turned the feds on us, and that was Washington State. The state of Washington turned the feds on me to get us out of the industry because they didn't like our game plan. They didn't like our business plan that we had, which was to make sure that each one of our people that was within our organization applied for these licenses, and it was going to enable us to have a seat at the table. And they didn't want us to have that seat at the table, so they took it. So I'm here to let you guys know that we are here to fight for our seat back at the table.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
And as I mentioned earlier, we have several steps.
Is it a Band-Aid or is it a cure?
Well, we had steps.
Because we don't want to hear a Band-Aid.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you too.
Right. So in our culture, we want our children to have things. We want to pass down things to our children. So we don't want to be left out. We got locked up for it. They have the way for being locked up for it. These are facts. Percentages speak for themselves. Now at least let us sit at the table or even lead the way stores for injustice that has been done for a long time. That's it. My name is Tim Goodman.
Look at some of the stuff. I mean, you look, oh, I said 10%, that's 1%.
Yeah,
And these are
1%.
only retail stores, 85%.
Yeah, 1%. She said 10%.
Yep.
All that is Caucasian.
Your legislators.
Now, when it was illegal, all that was black,
Okay,
locked
so
up.
If you haven't sat down.
Okay.
It was opposite.
Now, let's have justice, real justice. Let's do it the right way. Let's
And
let's
look
do
at
it
that.
right.
They were ready to put me in prison and kill me over it. And look at these numbers, you guys.